The time has come for lions to tell I own story. Yes, you're listening to Lion's Voice. I is Ras Tafari hailing from the island of St. Croix. Yeah, I'm bringing to you Rastafari vibes. Can you feel it? Rastafari. Babylon born when Rasta come together. Can you feel it? Rastafari, because Babylon done when I and I come together. Look how we live together, look how we work together, Oh, Babylon done when Rasta come together. Hail I, Rastafari, His Majesty and Impressment and bless. Yeah man, hailing from St. Croix, Rastafari, hail you. Love,
I.
I will never stop, hail the Most High, and I will never stop, call Rastafari. Blessed love, this is Kushid representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Rastafari.
Why? Yeah, man, long time still, I did a song about that called the Rasta Man, Yeah, man, he was what, just like Bonnie Spear said, the black hat man. No man wanted to deal with him. No man wanted to come close to this island, But he was far away because he wasn't living. I was born and bred in the city. It was when we started growing up that we started trying to get down to the roots and mix up with the, stuffs. But the major, by the time I've already become Rasta, through through the vibes, of the them, the professor and I mentioned. So, the Black Uhuru them and the other. So the consciousness and all that. So I became Rasta before actually meeting a really, really true Rasta man.
Okay. So
you see that? Yes.
Did this work?
Yes, Rasta. And it worked that way too for a lot of people I know. Yes. Give thanks, King. First thing, in school, you were taught history, and the other. So that was when the name His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie first came to my attention. But that was just that, just like any other African leader. And the father, he was the founder. He was the founder of OAU alongside Kwame Nkrumah and all that. So we learned about all those. Every one of them. Mandela was in prison then, Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Nyerere, all of them. But then
did you learn about his, okay, sorry, did you learn about his mediation of the Biafra conflict with Ojuku? Did you learn about that?
Not then, not in school. They didn't teach that in the night. They didn't teach that in Nigerian school. Remember that Biafra, which was the Igbo Republic, was defeated in the war. So a lot of things became anathema for the Nigerian government that they don't talk about. Even right now that I speak to you, they don't teach history in our schools anymore because they want to bury a lot of truth. They don't want the young ones to know a lot of things. So because of the Biafran War, the Biafran question, they don't teach history in Nigerian schools right now as I speak to you, my Lord.
Okay.
So that is a different ballgame that we'll treat later or on a different date, anyhow you want it.
Yes.
So back to meeting His Imperial Majesty. I met him, like I said, in school, just like any other African leader and things. And the father, he was the founder of OAU, Organization of African Unity, with headquarters in Addis Ababa. It was through the music of the prophet them, conscious reggae vibes. And then I started now getting to know His Imperial Majesty, the real His Imperial Majesty, not the one they taught us in school haphazardly. So, it was like opening your eyes to a lot of things because out here they tell you about everything good is white, and all things bad is black. Blackmail you here in Nigeria, we had a very long reign of juntas, military junta, from one to the other, from one. So we got used to Black Marias. Once you do anything, they just beat you up and throw you into a Black Maria. So everything about black was painted back, and white was everything. So in the church, I was born into the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church, which is pretty big down there in the east. As I speak to you now, my eldest sister is a nun. He's a Catholic nun, and has been for 30 something years now, you know. So that's part of it. So I started, reasoning alongside the vibes I was hearing, the music of the prophet, them teaching. Music is a powerful tool, my Lord. I always use myself as an example because I know what reggae music did for I.
How many is there a large Rastafari community in Nigeria, would you say, or how big is the community of Rastafari in Nigeria?
Compared to our size, Nigeria, the last unofficial census puts the population of Nigeria at about 230 something million people. So compared to our size, the Rastafari community in Nigeria is quite small, very, very small compared to the size of the nation.
Yes.
But what you have here more, what I can call reggae fans. Okay. And they are once in the older generation now, not these days, because the Gen Zs are all about Afrobeat. Yes. Which is what Nigeria is known for right now, Afrobeat. Yeah, man. So they have the older generation who are reggae buffs, people before us and some of my time and a little bit after our time who are still reggae buffs, and you have a lot of reggae societies, like reggae clubs, reggae fan clubs. You even have some football clubs that are named reggae boys, stuff like that. But they are older generation. So, but for the real Rastafari, for the real ones and ones, them, trotting that path. And we're there, but not as much as we should be.
Do you think there is 1,000 Rastafari in Nigeria?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes. No, in that way, every man knows the truth. Every man knows that the Rastaman is a peaceful man. Every man knows that the Rastaman is non-aligned with them political shenanigans and, with them religious, brouhahas and all that's going on. So in that scale, overall, no man troubles the Rastaman. Really, they love the Rasta. They love the Rastaman because they don't say Aina is different from all the other colorations, and that Aina deal. You hardly will see a Rastaman involved in anything untoward. You not see no Rastaman, do anything untoward Rasta. And this is a very corrupt society. They never hear about no Rastaman involved in none of them things. You never hear about no Rastaman going around doing nothing. Impunities are one here, Rasta. So you not see no Rastaman deal with none of them. So yes, I have that respect in the society of being truthful, of being steadfast, of being trustworthy, of being anti-establishment, of being activists, of being voices of the voiceless, of being human rights defenders and activists, and of being, strictly, messengers of love, spreading love and unity everywhere, and talking about Rastafari and wanting everybody to live consciously like I do. We want all man to embrace Rastafari liberty. So we don't have much of the thing, except from the governmental areas. When you talk about Rastafari, Magic helped in his own way musically, but then Magic at the point, he had his own controversies, apart from the drug controversies and the mysticism which he was involved in. He was neither here nor there. He will say Rasta today, tomorrow he will tell you I am Ras Tafari. Confusing, and he wasn't. So when you talk about progenitors or propagators out here of Rastafari liberty,
so we take Machete out of that conversation.
We don't count him. So Kimono. So Ras Kimono, Augustine Onwubuya, Ras Kimono was big. He was huge. He was doing roots rock reggae. He was doing. He recorded some Binji chants, and one of the most popular, Selassie, Rastafari, Jah is the Almighty I, was pretty huge in the 80s, and a lot of Rastafari works he was doing in propagating Rastafari liberty and consciousness. So he helped a great deal. He played his part before he relocated to America too, just like Majek, just like the patient of the Mandatos. At a point they all relocated to America. A lot of our artists there. But Kimono later came back. He later came back and he held fort straight and really tied to the Rastafari liberty till the last day. So yeah, man, he was a soldier. From the late 90s, reggae started dying in Nigeria through the combined effort of corporate Nigeria and the media, who didn't like the fact that reggae music points out your sins, looks at you right in your face and points out your sins and tell you wagwa. They don't like that because Nigeria is a very corrupt society from government level down. So slowly but surely reggae started going down. The patronage started going down. The promoters were calling once-on-ones for shows again. In fact, that was why some of these big artists started relocating us at that point. The Majek, Kimono, and the rest of them, relocating to America and other countries. So, what is big in Nigeria now is Afrobeat.
Yes.
Actually, some of our boys, our little boys now, command as much as even at times $10 million US per show. Filling up Madison Square Garden, New York, filling up the O2 Arena in London, filling up stadiums across the world. I'm talking about the Sakrament, the holy herb, Yes, and I burn it Rasta, and I burn it no matter what Babylon want to, them bomb, but they want to just burn fire. I have a song called Mariana that's talking about marijuana, but I have to, feminize it for the government so I could release it. It's called Mariana, but then when you start listening, I'm not talking about any woman, I'm talking about marijuana and things. So yeah, man, we burn the weed Rasta, we do with sacraments like letter today in the Naya Binji section, and I go and burn enough weed Rasta, but it's not legalized.
Yes.
Awesome, big team. In fact, the chairperson of the Burkina Faso Rastafari community, I just spoke with him some days ago, still on Ibrahim Traore, actually just did a song for the man too, coming out soon. And he is the African president. He's the kind of person we're all looking for, we're all angling for, that Africa needs. That's the new Sankara. The Sankara spirit is in that young man. That is Sankara out there, my brethren. You see, so he makes us happy a whole lot. And one other thing, like I told you, Nigeria, Big Brother, Giants of Africa, blah blah blah, all is just hogwash because our president, our current president right now, is also the chairman of the ECOWAS Commission. And these Sahel countries are supposed to be in ECOWAS. They're all members of ECOWAS. That's the Economic Community of West African States. That's West Africa. So yeah, but Ibrahim Traore led the other three young countries now being run by these powerful young Africans that we all are hailing now, like the one in Guinea, in Nigeria, and all that. Yes. All that, Chad, Mali, we are Mali,
Burkina Faso.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You know, he led them and they formed the Association of Sahel States.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
so they broke out from ECOWAS under the nose of my president, who is the chairman of ECOWAS. And when that one questioned, what one of the words Ibrahim told him was, "We know you didn't even win the election in Nigeria, so you grabbed the leadership, so you don't even have the right to talk to us." And that was lovely. So, you know, because we know the guy didn't win the election,
Yes.
they bought it over.
Okay. Okay.
You know, yeah. So some days ago, another comrade, one of our comrades, you know, who was planning a rally like what I saw some Rasta then do, the Rastafari Mansions organization did in Jamaica some days ago.
Yes. Yes.
One brethren, yes, in Delta was organizing a solidarity rally for Ibrahim Traore. And 2 days to the, or a day to the rally, they picked him up. Yeah, man, give thanks, King. Give thanks for the opportunity once again. It's an absolute pleasure and honor for I to be here representing the Nigerian Rastafari community and making the them know through the Lion Network say we dey here so. And I is doing the works and I is in the vineyard and I no fret and I no run nowhere and I is here and Rastafari liberty has come to stay and our community is growing, expanding exponentially. Not yet the way we want it, but we are getting there. We even have we have an orchestra that's dropping vibes. You know, the Italian music. We've done quite a couple of things. It's called RCC Nigerian Italian. So you know, in the yard later today we'll be having our Binji section. I personally honorable Mike Pam and like I said, and I is a reggae artist apart from the other things and I do. And I just dropped a new song some days ago, Street University. And I'll be dropping some new vibes because my new album coming out with 20 songs, 20 solid reggae vibes, you know, different kinds of reggae, you know, Binji chants, you know, Wish Rock, some vibes, you know, some poetic dubs, you know. The new album will be out very soon. We're working on some of the last parts of the songs. And I on Facebook is Mike Pam, M-Y-K-E space P-A-M. On TikTok is Mike, it's Mike, M-Y-K-E dot Pam, P-A-M. On Instagram is Pambalistic, because I'm the Pambalistic monk. My poetic thoughts, random thoughts series, because I write, like I told you, and when the album comes out, a book of poetry also will be released on the same day too. It's called the Pambalistic Musings, you know, and I do enough things. And yes, indeed, by Jah grace, you know, any support, any Jah soldier gets in helping to propagate, you know, Jah works is always a very, very welcomed development, and it goes a long way in helping I stand firm and stand fast, you know. And like I said, I normally from a little privileged background, but because of I decision to toe the line that's not the family line, and I deal with them things, you know. So but Anna is the happiest person, you know, doing Jah works.
Lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Jano, I'm so hungry, bro. I haven't eaten all day. Like, my head started to hurt me too. Like, what now could I eat right now?
What about a city samosa? So come now and get your samosa, a fusion of Indian, Jamaican and African culture. City samosas, the best samosas in the city.
Well, great is the Almighty, and greatly to be praised in the city of Haile, Selassie I, the mountain of His holiness.
Yeah, from Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, you know, the whole entire continent.
Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, from Accra to Addis Ababa.
Yes, it's beautiful continent, better control, mama.
Very beautiful.
From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile. From
I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I see Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. We gonna use solar energy, use sanitation to build the ecology. We utilizing green technology. We hailing Haile Selassie first without apology. And then we build the youth them economy. We dismantle Babylon monopoly. We teach the youth them how to live properly. Tell them make sure them got the title for them property.
yes, this beautiful continent, better control, mama. From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile.
I love you, mama, your heart never harden. I wanna turn all your slums into garden. I wanna stop all of your youths from starving. I wanna stop all of your tribes from warring. So much to say, so many feelings. We've both been hurt, we both need healing. Since the legalization you've been appealing. You stand up against them backdoor dealing. I hear you.
What do you have to tell the people about Ras Tafari?
Light to the world. The king of kings and the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. I left himself. Where's my ruler? Hey yo! Yeah, hear them high, hear the black king on the 23rd of July. So tell them guy who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your night. From ancient time them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them come without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill the lion we come conquer Judah tribe. Go through tribulation, I and I strive, see sufferation, I and I still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come if you tell them in a Toronto, straight at
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Banso, aka the Jazz Match Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk. Welcome to Lion Talk, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Today, it's a very special episode. We are celebrating African Liberation Month, and we have a guest straight out of Nigeria. This is our first Nigerian guest. We do have a Rastafari community in Nigeria, and we are going to find out the history. Big up Ras Ahoma, Daddy Basco Akansi, who made the connection. We're going to find out about how the Rases on the continent are living. What is the connection? What are the works? This one is going to be epic. Make sure you get your ital snacks. Make sure you hold your meditation. This one is for the history books. Before we bring forward the guests, let me take time to big up the Lion Pride. If you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. We are the fastest growing Rastafari platform on the planet because of the item. Give thanks for the Lion Pride on Patreon, the economic engine for the platform. Brethren and sistren from around four corners of creation who see the vision and who are practicing radical economic collective security. Yes, family, we have to support each other. And at the end of this interview, I'm going to ask the guest to give his contact information, and I want the eye to flood him with capital. Because why? We are practicing radical economic collective security. All right. So you know how we do it: the $5, the $10. Individually, it doesn't do much, but if we can direct it, we're almost at 40,000 subscribers. 40,000 people giving $10. That's almost $500,000 right there. So we have that power if we use it collectively. It's a radical idea. That's why we put radical in front of it. But that's what we want to cultivate with the Lion Pride. For those who are seeing the vision and want to support the platform, join our Patreon. We had our first historic town hall meeting of the Lion Pride on Patreon. We're building a movement, so definitely join us as we change history and show the world the power of Rastafari and the Pan-African family working together in oneness. All right, the Action Lion Pride, these are the ones who are giving their contributions on the live. In between, you can do super chats, Cash App, Zelle. There's so many ways you can contribute. This is how we joke the Vatican in him ribs, you know what I mean, by redirecting the fiat currency to support Rastafari Pan-African media. So we are Rastafari independent non-aligned media, and we are using the crowdfunding model because that's the only way to stay truly independent, family. You know the vibration. That's why we take the time to educate the fans and the supporters about how we are going to build an unbreakable identity. Make sure you sign up for the email, go to the website, make sure you lock in with us, because YouTube can always kick us off, but that doesn't stop anything. There are many platforms and we are one, so we go direct to the consumer. Big up the Ubuntu Lion Pride. $70 and up, you can become part of the Ubuntu Lion Pride. That's a lifetime honor once you become part of the Ubuntu Lion Pride. Big up all of the watch and peep. If you can't do anything, you just want to watch, or you just come for peep, we big you up the same way. But I tell the people this is the most dangerous platform for our people. Why? Because we have so much positive vibration here. You're going to change your mind, become a watcher, then you become part of the Action Lion Pride. Next thing you know, you're support. So if you want to be a peeper, you've been warned. All right. All of the family, Ras Lidge, big up yourself from me, a King Design. If you see us sipping, we're supporting Rastafari business. Big up Frontline Publishing. All of the supporters, Brother Carl, Phil Potts, we will be having the link for the book as well. Support our elders, support reading. I am the Reading Ras. Make sure, again, radical economic collective security. Anyone you see on this platform, we need to be flooding them with capital they can scale. We have to employ Rastafari people. No one's coming to save us. I'm sorry to break the news today. You know I say it every episode, but no one is coming to save us but us. We are peculiar people, and we have to love ourselves if we want to have that impact. So big up all of the sponsors, the supporters. We have a few more coming on board. We're building brick by brick, family. So you are watching history unfold. We are determined to show the true power of Kadamawi Haile Selassie I by being obedient to the call of collective security. Unity is the accepted goal, no petty difference. All these things we are implementing in real time, and the people are seeing the power. All right, housekeeping out of the way. I want to introduce the guests. Again, this is our first foray into Nigeria. I spent a night in Lagos. I spent a night in Isolo. You know what I mean? So I've touched on Nigerian soil, but this is a place that I want to go to. I do have Nigerian in the bloodline, according to the DNA. One of my aunts took the DNA test and it led to Nigeria. So we do have some of that too. So we are going to love this one. And this brethren is a reggae artist. You know what I mean? He's a long-time member of the Rastafari community. We also heard about a governor in Nigeria trying to send threat to people who have locks. We're going to find out about that. We're going to find out about how Rastafari is organizing in Nigeria. So please, Lion Pride family, give us a warm welcome for the Honorable Mike Pam. I see there.
Yes. Blessed love, King.
Blessed love.
It's all good.
All right, family. All right. So this is a tradition here on Lion Talk. We ask our guests to step into our iritical time machine and take us to the moment of your birth. Tell us about where you were born, what year you were born. Give us the setting. We want to get the origin story of the Honorable Mike Pam. What was that like? You know, take us there.
Yeah, man. Give thanks for the opportunity. Give thanks for the love. You know. Yes, Honorable Mike Pam here from Lagos, Nigeria, as the commercial nerve center of the country, and of course, like you know, Nigeria is the most populous African country. I was born in the early 70s down in a city called Onitsha. Onitsha is in Anambra State, a very bustling and prosperous city. It's the commercial nerve center of the eastern part of Nigeria, you know. And I grew up in the city where I started my early education. And from there, you know, started expanding into other things. Like I was into sports big time. I was a footballer throughout, and started a boy reggae band very early, where we had our first studio outings, studio works in the early 90s. And I had my debut album in 1994, you know, and I'm a political scientist. Apart from that, then I got into movies, directing movies and featuring in movies, producing and directing, and also got into the leadership of the Nigerian music. So from there, I got into the leadership of the union, from being the spokesperson first of the Lagos State chapter of the Union of Nigerian Musicians, from there to becoming the national spokesperson for quite a number of years, working with different presidents of the union, and that's apart from being a producer, a music producer too, and the other. I'm also a writer, taking your footsteps, coming right through where you're going, taking the same path. I'm also an author. I'm a journalist. I've edited like two national magazines in Nigeria and one Pan-African magazine with offices here in Lagos, Nigeria, and in Johannesburg, South Africa, called High Flyers. So I've been here and there, and currently also I head a music organization with one of the, you can say, the most controversial Nigerian artists right now. His name is Idris Abdulkarim. In fact, his latest song, Tell Your Papa, is what is busting everywhere, talking to the son of the president to tell the father that nothing is going down here, everything is done, we are not enjoying his leadership. And I am also a member of the board of the Musical Copyright Society of Nigeria, which is the collective management organization we have in Nigeria for copyright and others. So I'm a copyright administrator. And of course, the chairman of the Nigerian Rastafari community, also currently still the spokesperson of the body in Africa, which Daddy Bosco heads as the chairman of RCC Africa. Aside from his national assignment as the president of Rastafari, the Council of Ghana, he's the chairman of RCC in Africa and spokesperson. Thanks, man.
So I'm honored, because it seems like there is the right person to be the first Nigerian Rastafari on this platform. This is a global gathering of Rastafari from around the world, big up yourself, Daddy Bosco, for the link. But we're going too fast. You just reel off so much. You know what I mean? Too fast. Take us to the eastern.
Still plenty.
Yeah, take us to the eastern region in the early 70s, where you were born. What was that like? Were there any Rastafari in your town? What was the settings like? Is that an Igbo region? Give us some settings.
Yeah. Give thanks, my Lord. Give thanks. Sorry for the fast pace, Yeah. Exactly, you're right. The eastern region, that is the Igbo enclave. Where the Igbo people are predominantly from. That's the 5 states in the eastern region are predominantly Igbo, 100%. So yes. So I am by tribe, ethnic affiliation, an Igbo man. I'm an Igbo man, actually a titled man in the culture with red cap. So yes, in the east, down there, those days, I can start remembering things from late 70s and early 80s. So down there, what caught our attention wasn't having Rastafari people around. No, you didn't have much of them. You didn't get to see much of them. A few times you could see some dreadlocks. And don't forget, in our culture, we have what is called Dada. People who are born with locks. Not necessarily Rastafari people. Yeah, okay. And you have them. Yes, man. We have it in our culture, Dada. And then when you have a Dada child, you don't rush to cut the hair. You have to follow the tradition. Some you don't even touch the hair, like the Samson story in the Bible. That is he was a Dada, and that's what we have in our culture. The Igbos. So you don't rush to cut the hair. So you have those, a sprinkle of them out there. But you don't have much of Rastafari people. But then what you do have is reggae music, pulsating, blaring from every speaker, from every household. You had in those days, way back as we were growing, some of the first vibes that pervaded our atmosphere were like vibes from Papa Uroy, Godianati Dread.
Haile.
Yeah, man. I later found out the album was released about 1979 or thereabout. So you can understand when the vibe started getting to I and I them, it was sounds like that. You know, it was the sounds of Peter Tosh, you know, sounds of Bonnie Spear, man like Joseph Hills, and culture, and then of course Robert Nesta Marley. Everywhere you go. In fact, that down there in the east, there's a style of hairstyle, you know, like our locks, but they braid it. It's braided hair for the women. The name for it is Bob Marley. You just go to any salon, please, I want to do Bob Marley, and they that was what we grew up to meet. Okay. And those were the things we grew up with. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Indeed.
So when was the first memory of seeing a Rastafari brethren in your youth?
Right. Yeah, man, long time still, you know. I did a song about that called The Rastaman, you know. Yeah, man, he was what, just like Bonnie Spear said, you know, the black hat man. No man wanted to deal with him. No man wanted to come close to this item, you know. But he was far away because he wasn't living. I was born and bred in the city. It was when we started growing up that I started trying to get down to the roots and mix up with the, you know, stuffs. But the major, by the time I've already become Rasta, through, you know, through the vibes, you know, of the item, the professor and I mentioned, so, you know, the Black Uhuru them and the other, so the consciousness and all that. So I became Rasta before actually meeting a really true Rasta man.
Okay, so
you see that? Yes,
did this work.
Yes, Rasta, and it works that way too for a lot of people I know out here, because we didn't have that much. You know, my people are very materialistic. You know, everybody wants to have all the monies in the world. I come from an area where you know, a guy like me is expected to have so many houses, a number of cars, you know, doing a lot of things with money, spraying money around and all that. That is the Igbo team. We are entrepreneurial in nature, and it's all about money and more money. So that's why your people always tell you. That's what they want to hear. And your mates, your contemporaries, everybody, that's what they talk about. So you just have a few of I and I them who I say, no, Rasta, that's not the way. Everything can be about money. Everything can be about materialism and things. You know, that everything can be about money and materialism, and the music, you know, the forebears, the forerunners, the man them who are thumping it, Rasta, you know, the Wellers, the man them I mentioned, and so much more. Even Michael with the Naya Binji drums, you know. I ran through, you know, songs of Count Ozzy, all those kind of, you know, inspirational works. So and I started, you know, reasoning in that direction consciously and things, you know. And then eventually, when I already had locks, but no formal Rastafari, you know, training or teaching or mentorship from anyone, you know. I already was growing my locks. I already was, you know, following the teachings of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie. I already was, you know, trying to pick all the tenets that I was speaking from the vibes and the teachings and some of the books I could lay my hands on, you know. Yes, Rasta. I was already there, you know, and I was reading about Marcus Garvey and all that, tried to get some of his books at that tender age. So eventually, the Ethiopian World Federation, through there was this group, you know, the part of the Orthodox Church, that actually they came from Bakawal, you know, right from Jamaica, Bakawal, in Kingston, Prince Emmanuel, Church EIABC or something then. you know, Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Yeah, man. So some dread them came to Nigeria. I don't know how, they just came on evangelization, you know. And I was one of the first people they met, because when they came, they were in a place called Rujeni Tourist Village, you know, some kind of setting, just a stone throw from Onitsha. And in the complex, you have stadium, you have a lot of things, but they have this natural habitat there where they stayed, you know. So when they came, I was one of the first people they told them about. I was very young, very Rasta, and I was actually an outcast. And, you know, coming from my side, where, you know, your people have this, and they think this is what it should be, and you're not following that path. Like, you're kind of cut off from all that largesse and everything, and you were good with it. So I was already making some small names for myself and playing reggae music with my young band and dropping songs. So I was one of the first people they were, you know, told to meet. So we linked up. In those days, we didn't have cell phones. We just had the, you know, the landlines that you can only use from home. But I couldn't access those things in my house because I was an outcast, you know. So I made my way, and we tried, and we linked up, you know. And then that was when the teachings, you know, I was a very humble, obedient, and eager student. I was just like a sponge, ready to soak up all the knowledge, and I couldn't lay my hands on. You see.
So those brethren were Bobo Shanti. They had turban.
Bobo Shanti.
Yes,
Bobo Shanti from Prince Emmanuel Edwards. Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, man. He signed them out.
International Congress, EA.
Yes, sir. IBC. Yes, indeed. Indeed, yes, that was what it is. So already, I was a dread already, and I had this mindset growing up, because when I was reading about Rastafari and things before meeting them, I ran across mansions, talking about mansions and all that in Rastafari, and I felt, why it's just like the churches and things, because where I come from, you have a lot of denominations, you know. It's predominantly Christian area, but you have a lot of denominations, which of course causes some frictions and things amongst them, you know. So I was like, no, and it's Rasta, and it's Rasta, so me don't deal with no mansion, me I deal with Jack. So Rastafari. So eventually, when I read something from Bonnie Livingstone, Bonnie Wells about that same topic, I was like, yes, my Lord, yes, give thanks, my King, give thanks. So and I stuck to that. But along the line, I deal with all the mansions. I am free to attend all the functions, and the love is equal, and I deal with all of them. So the IDEM opened their eyes to a lot of things, and also loaned a lot of books that I wouldn't have ordinarily, you know, laid my hands on. Why they taught I plenty of lessons, Rasta, you know, in humility, in Rastafari, liberty and consciousness, in dietary, in style of living. Why, Rasta? In everything, my Lord. In everything, my Lord. Because the music, you know, music with the small attention you get from music and all that, you know, it was easy for you to get derailed, especially with the things of the world, talking about everything, you know. So, but the idea came in on time. It was a timely intervention. So and I was very lucky to, yeah, man, to step.
Discipline.
You know,
they taught the discipline of the child.
Selassie, Rastafari. The word that, my Lord.
So let me ask the I, because coming from an Igbo background, and I'm going to get the history of the Igbo people from the I too, because it's an interesting history. But coming from an Igbo background, what made the I gravitate to His Imperial Majesty? When did you start to look at the divinity of His Imperial Majesty as a young Ras coming from a traditional Igbo background?
Yes, give thanks, King. First thing, in school, you were taught history, and the other. So that was when the name His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie first came to my attention. But that was just that, just like any other African leader. And the father, he was the founder. He was the founder of OAU alongside Kwame Nkrumah and all that. So we learned about all those. Every one of them. Mandela was in prison then. Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Nyerere, all of them. But then
did you learn about his? Okay, sorry. Did you learn about his mediation of the Biafra conflict with Ojuku? Did you learn about that?
Not then. Not in school. They didn't teach that in the night. They didn't teach that in Nigerian school. Remember that Biafra, which was the Igbo Republic, was defeated in the war. So a lot of things became anathema for the Nigerian government that they don't talk about. Even right now that I speak to you, they don't teach history in our schools anymore because they want to bury a lot of truth. They don't want the young ones to know a lot of things. So because of the Biafran War, the Biafran question, they don't teach history in Nigerian schools right now as I speak to you, my lord.
Okay.
So that is a different ballgame that we'll treat later or on a different date, anyhow you want it.
Yes.
So back to meeting His Imperial Majesty. I met him, like I said, in school, just like any other African leader and things. And the father, he was the founder of OAU, Organization of African Unity, with headquarters in Addis Ababa. It was through the music of the prophet them, conscious reggae vibes, that then I started now getting to know His Imperial Majesty, the real His Imperial Majesty, not the one they taught us in school haphazardly. So, it was like opening your eyes to a lot of things, because out here they tell you about everything good is white, and all things bad is black. Blackmail you here in Nigeria. We had a very long reign of dictator juntas, military junta, from one to the other, from one. So we got used to Black Marias. Once you do anything, they just beat you up and throw you into a Black Maria. So everything about black was painted bad, and white was everything. So in the church, I was born into the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church, which is pretty big down there in the east. As I speak to you now, my eldest sister is a nun. He's a Catholic nun, and has been for 30-something years now, So that part of it. So I started, reasoning alongside the vibes I was hearing, the music of the prophet them, teaching. Music is a powerful tool, my lord. I always use myself as an example, because I know what reggae music did for her. Conscious reggae vibes did for her, Rasta. So I started reasoning, started thinking about that. Now the hunger to know more came in, and that was why, in fact, that's the reason why I'm still a researcher today, a writer, and very inquisitive mind. Because from that young age, I started looking for books, looking for information. There was no internet then, there was no computers that like you have them. No, nothing like that. So you have to source through the library. So I was a regular visitor at many libraries then. I just wanted to read about this great man. I wanted to know more, I wanted to know more about this small man that has this mighty things being talked about him. So from there, as I was researching, I was now also looking for more music that's talking about him. I was researching, going through the histories and everything. And luckily for me, that was when I also read about how the military came in, everything about him, Rasta. So I was already I was already learned to quite. I was already learned to a very large extent about Selassie before I met the Bobo Shanti priests them that came from Bakawo. You know, so yeah, man. So Selassie was open to her, and which was hidden from the wise and the prudent. Which now talking about my people, who is all about the white god from from the Middle East or whatever and stuff. But then some of us now, took a different path that opened up a new vista of hope, of truth, which hitherto has been hidden from almost everybody out there. And we started preaching and talking about him, started spreading the message, and to Jah be the glory, he started yielding fruits from all over. And then I give thanks.
Okay, good. Yes. So how many is there a large Rastafari community in Nigeria, would you say, or how big is the community of Rastafari in Nigeria?
Compared to our size, Nigeria, the last unofficial census puts the population of Nigeria at about 230 something million people. So compared to our size, the Rastafari community in Nigeria is quite small, very, very small compared to the size of the nation.
Yes.
But what you have here more, what I can call reggae fans, and they are once in the older generation. The older generation now, not these days, because the Gen Zs are all about Afrobeat. Yes. Which is what Nigeria is known for right now, Afrobeat. Yeah, man. So they have the older generation who are reggae bobs, people before us and some of my time and a little bit after our time who are still reggae bobs, and you have a lot of reggae societies, like reggae clubs, reggae fan clubs. You even have some football clubs that are named reggae boys, stuff like that. But they are older generation. So, but for the real Rastafari, for the real ones them, trotting that path. And we're there, but not as much as we should be.
Do you think there is 1,000 Rastafari in Nigeria?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. At our last Nigerian Rastafari conference, we had quite an appreciable turnout. Those some couldn't make it because of the security situation. Some of them coming from different states couldn't make it. Some managed to make it too. So yes, we're up to that. But on our register, officially, it's not up to that now. Yes. But we are growing.
How many official on the register?
Officially, we're about 600 plus, going strong.
Wow, that's still impressive. That's impressive, because that's one of the things that we're even doing in Jamaica, is trying to do some mapping to start getting some data, because I know when you're dealing with governments, you got to come with numbers and data. So a lot of the work that we're doing right now is to try to do mapping of skills and numbers, so that we can say we have 20 plumbers, 50 doctors, and have the information about our community, because we've never done that as a Rastafari family. So I'm glad to hear Nigeria, you have 600 plus. That's impressive, that are registered. That's still very impressive work. All right, so let us get the history of the Igbo people, because I hear them say that the Igbos are Israelites. I hear all kind of reasoning. I want to hear from an Igbo man, and I read Things Fall Apart as a young brethren at going to university. That was it made a big impression about the Igbo culture, standing up to colonialism, Chinwe Achebe. But tell us from an Igbo man, you know what I mean, what is the history that you learned growing up about your people and the Igbo nation?
Yes, King. The Igbo, that's yes, and the book you read by Professor Chinua Achebe, I think that book was released in 1958. Yeah, he did a very great job, talking about that. That was, of course, a story he made up, but a lot of the things about the Igbo culture and things are very relatable. Yes, the Igbo man, like I said before, is very entrepreneurial in nature. He's very stubborn. He's Republican in nature too. So he's pretty hard to put in a spot. Because originally Igbos do not have kings from way back in the days, We don't have kings. We were ruled by council of elders. Every town is run by a council of elders. So a single man did not have that overbearing power over the people, no. And that's why there's a word in my place that says Igbo, meaning that, we don't have a king. So that means I can bow for anybody, Everything has to be agreed upon by that council of elders. Even if one person dissents, you have to still find a way to have a compromise before you can do that. So that was why it was pretty difficult for the colonial masters to penetrate the Igbo land, unlike they did in the northern and western parts of Nigeria, where you have the northern part, where you have predominantly Hausas and other minor tribes, and then the western part where you have predominantly Yorubas. They had their kings. They historically had kings, or rulers. So it was easy to get them to do things through their kings, because all you needed to do, all the colonial masters needed to do was to compromise the kings, get the kings to their side. And whatever you tell the kings and whatever they say to their subjects becomes law. Meanwhile, in Igbo land, no man, nobody had that right. So nobody listens to anybody, because we say, everybody is a king in his own house. That's Igbo for you. Everybody is a king in his own house. But then when we come out in the community, we have the council of elders, the wise men, who are the final arbiters of any issue. They settle quarrels, they lay down the rules and regulations of how things should be done, will be done. And amongst them also, there you have the chief priest, who takes care of the traditional rites and all that. So nobody could penetrate Igbo land like that. So it took them many years before they could penetrate Igbo land. So the first thing they did was, after the penetration, they looked out for some ruffians, some bad men in the society, who were very pliable, very amenable, as they wanted. They can mold them the way they wanted. Now they appointed these questionable characters as warrant chiefs of their different communities, who they deal with now, giving them powers, that is, giving them soldiers to maltreat, subdue, or dehumanize anybody that refuses to follow whatever laid down rules they have. You see what I mean? So from there now, they started penetrating the land and started getting people to do things against their will. And before you know it, now they made these questionable characters, they upgraded their status and started making them kings in Igbo land. Right now in Igbo land, you have kings everywhere. But originally we didn't have kings. So with these kings now, they were not able to introduce their indirect rule system, which was already successful, in the other parts of the country. So the Igbo man is that Republican in nature. He's that stubborn. He's about himself, his family, and his community, and taking care of things, take care of your responsibilities, and listen to the wise words of the elders and abide by the rules and regulations they lay down, and of course the culture, traditions, and the heritage of the land are usually and always sacrosanct. But most of these things now have been Most of these things now have been overridden, with all the colonial interplays and shenanigans that are now the major thing. That's why right now, in most countries in Africa, what you have is neo-colonialism. Some people think it's done. It's not. Most of our leaders today are still just their masters' voices, for real.
So where did the Igbo people where did the Igbo people originate? Did they originate in the area of modern Nigeria? Did they come from the east? Where do Igbo people originate from?
Beautiful question, my king, because there's a lot of controversies about that. Even some being perpetrated by Igbos, propagating some migrational vibes of I and I coming from Israel, which is not true. I and I did not come from Israel. If there's anything, the Israelis came from our land, because Africa is the cradle of civilization. This is where everything started. This is the high culture, our Kabulan. So we didn't come from nobody. They probably left from our shores, because actually we have a lot of things in common. Our culture, traditions, and all that. We have so many things in common with the Jews, which of course must have led the propagators of, or even the progenitors of that story to start propagating that story before they now sold it out. There are books about that and a lot of things, but that is not true. The Igbos, Ndi Igbo, we are called collectively Ndi Igbo. That is the Igbo people. I, as an individual, I am Onye Igbo, Onye Igbo, Igbo person. But Ndi Igbo, actually, according to our elders and some modern day historians who really dug deep to make sense of all the stories, actually emanated from the word Ndibo. Remember, I said Ndibo, that is Igbo people collectively, is a word that emanated from this word Ndibo, and Ndibo meant the ancient people. The ancient people of the ancient days. So the original story about Igbos are indigenous. In that place you find Igbos today. This present day Nigeria, the eastern corridor, which we as Igbo call Biafra. We all originated there. Our forefathers were the ancient people, who you could call them the pygmies, you could call them the bushmen, you could call them whatever you want to call them, we don't care. But the point is that we are the ancient people that started living, the first people actually to live in wherever, any part of Nigeria, if the stories from the wise men should be taken. Yeah. So we didn't originate from nowhere. We originated from where we are still. So we didn't migrate. We didn't migrate from nowhere to where we are. We sprouted, or we were the ancient people, Ndibo, which is today now known as Ndibo.
Okay.
That's right.
What is the history of
I hope you got that.
Yes, I got it good. What is the history of the Yoruba people and the Hausa people?
Yeah, for the Yoruba, they have a very long history too, and they have this history of Ojuduwa, their progenitor, descending from the skies, which of course is questionable. But then I wouldn't know. I'm not Yoruba, but that's their history. That Ojuduwa, the progenitor of the Yorubas, descended from nowhere, meaning that he had no father, no mother, But the Bini people have their own version of the story, where they tell it like the Oduduwa was actually a prince of Benin that came to conquer that side. So the story, it depends on who you're hearing it from. The Hausas, yeah man. So the Hausas are predominantly the largest tribe in the north, but we don't have a history of where they're coming from, because you also have Hausas in some other smaller states across the Sahel from West Africa there, They are not only in Nigeria. But the ruling class now in Nigeria, which actually the British colonial masters established, are the Fulanis. They actually make up like 3% of Nigeria's population.
Okay.
You know, those we know when they came into Nigeria in 1804.
Okay.
You know, from Futajalo in Sierra Leone and some other, you know, or in Senegal, sorry, and some other countries around the Sahel. They were led by their leader, Usman Danfodio, in a jihad. It was actually a jihad, but they came in peacefully first, and they were welcomed by the Hausas, led by one Hausa king called King Jufa or King Yunfa, depending on the dialectical differences in the north. So King Yunfa or King Jufa. So you can, like the Jews do, you can alternate the J for Y and things. So King Yufa welcomed them in 1804, and 4 years later, in 1808, they killed the king and started their jihad, which now ran through. They actually came in preaching Islam. Already there were a smattering of Islamic plans around, you know, but not predominantly. You know, so after killing the chief, they established their emirate and started rampaging around the north and took over most parts of the north. They are actually negligible in size, but they were given prominence by the colonial masters, and right now they are everywhere in power.
Okay, I didn't know that history. Are there Hausa and Yoruba Rastafari brethren and sistren from those nations?
There are Yorubas, because Yoruba, you know, you have because our problem here in Nigeria mostly is religious bigotry, religious irredentism. You know, people riding on religion to perpetrate all manner of evil and kill their fellow human. They kill people here anyhow because of religion. All these foreign religions. None of them are foreign religions. You know, so in Yoruba land, you have a large percentage of Christians, and you also have a large percentage of Muslims, because that jihad I talked about penetrated the Yoruba enclave, that's the southwest. A couple of states, I think 3 or 4 states, you know, were affected. You know, the jihadists, you know, made an incursion there in this 17th century, 1819, thereabout, you know. So you have, you know, religion is a funny thing, Rasta. So there's a lot of brainwash education attached to religion. A lot of man then can make up their own mind to. So religion is succeeding in making a lot of people not use their God-given you know, decision-making faculties. You know, they have to be tied to whatever their religious leaders talk about, and that's what it is. So in the West, that's where you have the Yorubas. Yes, there are some Rastaman them, you know, especially from the Christian angle, and there's quite a negligible few. Personally, I know from the Yoruba axis of the country where I actually currently live, because this is Lagos, and Lagos is in the west. That's the Yoruba enclave, because it was the federal capital territory. This used to be our federal capital before it was moved to Abuja, which is in the north now, in 1992 by Babangida, a president from the north. So personally, I know about 3, just 3 Yoruba Rastaman them from Muslim background, but there are much more from the Christian background. Now going to the north, we are predominantly about 80%, 70% Muslims, it's pretty hard to have that. But then some of the items from the minority uh, uh, ethnic groups, because in Nigeria we have 300 and something ethnic groups.
Wow.
Massive, 300 and something different languages, Rasta. you know, I mean, but our lingua franca is English, and of course we have our own patois, Pidgin English.
Pidgin, yes.
Which is beautiful, very awesome. I do feel like using it right now. I love it. but a lot of people won't understand me when I speak that way.
Yes.
So there in the north you have a few Rastaman them too from the northern minority groups. I don't know of one from the Muslim or Hausa or Fulani ethnic group. None, not one. Not a single one.
Serious.
No. Because of religion.
How with this religious, cause we hear about the religious violence from time to time that breaks out in Nigeria. How do the religions treat Rastafari people? How do they treat the eye moving through creation? Is there a lot of discrimination against the eye? How is the eye dealt with?
No, in that way, every man knows the truth. Every man knows that the Rastaman is a peaceful man. Every man knows that the Rastaman is non-aligned with them political shenanigans and, with them religious, brouhahas and all that's going on. So in that scale, overall, no man troubles the Rastaman. Really, they love the Rasta. They love the Rastaman because they don't say Aina is different from all the other colorations, and that Aina deal. You hardly will see a Rastaman involved in anything untoward. You not see no Rastaman, do anything untoward Rasta. And this is a very corrupt society. They never hear about no Rastaman involved in none of them things. You never hear about no Rastaman going around doing nothing. Punities are one here, Rasta. So you not see no Rastaman deal with none of them. So yes, I have that respect in the society of being truthful, of being steadfast, of being trustworthy, of being anti-establishment, of being activists, of being voices of the voiceless, of being human rights defenders and activists, and of being, strictly, messengers of love, spreading love and unity everywhere, and talking about Rastafari, and wanting everybody to live consciously like I do. We want all man to embrace Rastafari liberty. So we don't have much of the thing, except from the governmental areas, from the security forces, because sometimes a couple of years back, when the spokesperson of the police force made some very, very, the cards he played were so discordant, man, that he looked as if he wanted to light a flame that could engulf trying to link Rastafari, trying to link dreadlocks with courtesan, which is another huge thing, why they're killing themselves over nothing, trying to link with that, and then the fraud game they have in Nigeria, which is called Yahoo boys. In our code is 419 in the criminal area code, so you can say either 419 or Yahoo. So you have a lot of Yahoo boys. So right now you have this bandwagon effect of people wearing locks now. Locks has become a fashionable thing. Way back when I was growing up in the 90s with the locks and things. Why? You could be in an area with about 1 million people, only use the locked up. Only is a natty dread there. Only you have dreadlocks there, You is the one different. But no, you can You see me, King?
Yes, I see.
So now you have, So now you have a lot of dreadlocks, not Rastafari people. You have a lot of dreadlocks. That's fashion. The bandwagon is massive. So because of that, the police spokesperson made that statement and tried to link her and I. So we were very quick to do a rejoinder and call him out to make his statement very, very specific and take off Rastafari people from there, because he said people will Rasta hair. That's very ambiguous. Yes. You understand? You know, man, Rastafari is Rastafari. Now bring us into that bandwagon, system. So he corrected himself.
Can Nigerian people, the average man and woman on the street in Nigeria, tell the difference between a Rastafari brethren and sister and a dreadlocks? Can they tell the difference? Do people know the difference?
Many of them can't, but quite an appreciable number of them can. You know, from your looks, from your mannerisms and things, yes, quite an appreciable number can, but many will find it difficult to do because what they see is just the locks. And once they see locks, the next thing they think about is Bob Marley, reggae music, Rasta. In that sequence, in that progression, you see that Bob Marley, reggae music, Rasta. You know, that's step-ins that way, So I try to change that effect, and then some of them very laughable this time. Some of them will see you as a dreadlocks, and then probably you have some colors, some African colors, ital colors, repping Africa. You are, hey Ghanaian, hey, stuff like that. They just call you a name of another country, as if you're coming from somewhere different. Yes. Because funny enough, we've been the giant of Africa that we were, because I don't think we are anymore, we are still the big brother in Africa though, but then looking at our flag is very worrisome. It's very sad to know that our flag is just green, white, green, that that's African colors, put together by the UNIA, way back that was launched in Ireland that many African countries adopted. We didn't adopt that, and we were supposed to be shining the light for a lot of other African nations. In Africa, you have a lot of countries using different variations of, different variations of that. Many countries, almost 40 countries. 30-something countries are using it.
Ethiopia too. That was to honor Ethiopia and Ethiopia's role.
True. Yes, I.
You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, man. I know. So, but we don't have it. We have green, white, green.
Yes.
So it's always cumbersome lecturing people about that, about the fact that this is Africa. This is what it should be. And now explaining the colors and all that, like Marcus Garvey did, and everything, trying to make them understand. But then still a whole lot of them don't understand that. And then, of course, Biafra. The shortly-lived Biafra had the same, adopted the African colors with the rising sun in the middle, where you have like Ghana, where you have the black star. The Biafran one has the rising sun. Oh, awesome.
Okay. So for those who are not familiar, explain the whole conflict with Biafra and Ojuku and the whole split that took place in the 1960s, because one of the great works of Kadamawi Haile Selassie is the mediation that he did after the Biafran War. Ojuku said the only person he would talk to was His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie first, and a lot of people don't know that history, and His Majesty had to come because some of the African nations had recognized Biafra, so His Majesty had to mediate between those nations and then the Nigerian federal government, which there was a big division that took place. But as a person from that region, give us that history.
Yeah, man, that part we want to trod now is a part laden with blood, tears, sorrow, and a lot of guts, you know. The Biafran situation started from, Nigeria had its independence from Britain in 1960.
Yes.
As October 1st, 1960, became a republic in 1963. Then the form of democracy we were practicing there was the British form of democracy, not the American presidential system, which we practice right now, currently. So we had the parliamentary system then running. So, and the three major regions were the Southeast, that's then the Eastern region, that's the Igbo enclave, the Western region, the Yoruba enclave, and the Northern region, which is the Hausa, Fulani, and other minority group enclave. So the forefathers, the ones who took over after independence, who were running the country then, you had the three-party major faces were Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe from the Eastern Bloc, the Igbo person, yes. Dr. Obafemi Awolowo,
one of the founding fathers of Africa.
Yes, the Zik of Africa, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you have Chief Obafemi Awolowo representing the Western Zone, and you had Ahmadu Bello, Alhaji Ahmadu Bello, representing the Northern Zone. But when the Northern region, it came time for general elections, he seconded Tafawa Balewa to represent him, and he became the first Prime Minister of Nigeria, a Fulani man from the north. So after that, we became a republic in 1963. There was a scheduled national election in 1964, which became very, very bloody down here in the West. We had a very bloody timeout in 1964 here in the West that witnessed something we call Operation Wait Here. Operation Wait Here is Operation Wait Him or Her, and wait him is making wait or make her wait. That's bloody of the person. So the wetness is not about water, it's about blood. So in Yoruba parlance, it's called wait here. That's wet him or wet her. That's the Operation Wait Here. So it was a bloody thing, political supremacy fight between Chief Awolowo and one of his lieutenants then, who was the premier of the province, Chief Akintola. Samuel Adoke Akintola. So, and that led to the federal government of Nigeria declaring a state of emergency in the West. Some of these facts, many Nigerians are not aware of because they don't research, they don't read the history. What led to that? So when that happened, when they declared a state of emergency, it snowballed into more fightings. And the chief, Obafemi Awolowo himself, who was loved by a whole lot of people, because he had good policies for his people down here in the West. There was free education. He was first in a lot of things, He was first in a lot of things, in utilizing the resources of the region, in building up the region, and in doing things that impacted the lives of his people. Even a majority of the bigness from there were some of the people that enjoyed his free education policy. People who ordinarily wouldn't have had the opportunity to better their lives, but because of the policies he laid down, they had the opportunity to go to school and make themselves better, and contributed to the society, and are still contributing. So this particular very popular chief, Obafemi Awolowo there, who was the leader of the opposition, because Zik's party, the NCNC, was in collusion with the Northern People's Party, with the Northern People's Congress, NPC. So they were in government while Tafawa Balewa was the prime minister who was actually in charge. Dr. Azikiwe was given the portfolio of the president, which of course was more or less ceremonial. He didn't have much powers, just like where you have prime ministers.
Is it true that Nnamdi Azikiwe was a Garveyite too?
Yeah, man, according to him, yes, he wrote about that. Yes, he wrote about the massive impact of Garvey's teaching in his life. So he was in government. So Chief Awolowo was the opposition leader. So from there, the government of Tafawa Balewa now imprisoned, arrested, and charged that Chief Obafemi Awolowo with treasonable felony, which was a very huge thing. So from there, he was jailed down in the east, in a prison in Calabar, which was the first administrative capital of Nigeria when Lord Lugard was in power about 1914, thereabout, before they moved to Lagos. You understand? In the 18th, the late part of that century to the early 19th. So they imprisoned him in Calabar, in the eastern part, in the Igbo enclave. And that was when the military cadet then, the middle cadet of the military officers cadet, that's the majors, mostly majors. Now, they were of the opinion that the government was very corrupt, that their politicians were corrupt, and Chinua Achebe also did a book about that period, not about that was before the coup, He did a book about, I think 1964, before the Operation Weight and things, a book, A Man of the People, that profiled the way the corrupt politicians were living large in opulence, as against the suffering of the people, not caring, just praying money and all that, So that also took care of that history of that time. Okay. So the military brass then, these young guys, felt that these guys were very corrupt and they needed a change. They needed to make a change. And, the election I talked about was in 1964. So the events that led to the eventual arrest of the chief and blah, 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 it all spilled into 65, 66, and towards the end of 66. So by January of 1967, these young dudes, these young officers of 1966, these young officers now carried out a coup. Their leader was named Major Chukwuma Nzogu, which makes him an Igbo person, and there were also some other Igbo officers. There were 5 of them, actually, 5 of them. So one was Yoruba, the rest were Igbo. Because in those days, Igbos were actually dominant in almost all the fields, in the civil service, in the military, in the police force, in almost every area of the economy as at then. So when they did this coup, their original plan was to overthrow the government, release Chief Obafemi Awolowo from prison, and drop all the treasonable felony charges against him and make him the president. You understand? Make him the president. This was their plan, and that was what they said after the coup. But he took another Igbo man, Chief, or then Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, who later led the Biafran revolution. He took him, and the commanding officer of the Nigerian army then, General Aguiyi Ironsi, another Igbo person too. Remember those days, Igbos were everywhere. It's no longer like that because the pogrom and a lot of things happened. So the commanding officer now, alongside Ojuku, who was commanding who was in charge of the military in Kanu, in the north.
Yes.
As at that time, they foiled the coup. They foiled the coup. They made sure that the coup didn't work. By then, a lot of these people had been killed. The Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, the man from the north, was killed. His principal, Ahmadu Bello, who was the contemporary of Zik and Awolowo, was also killed in his house in Kaduna. Chief Akintola, who was the premier of the Western region, was also killed. You know, but the premier of the Eastern region, the Igbo region, was not seen because they foiled. The one in the East was foiled. They couldn't get the man. And Zik, who was the president, was out of the country.
Okay.
You see? So now, some propaganda theorists now started concocting the story. Oh, this is an Igbo coup. Hope you're following me, because that's the genesis.
Yes.
Oh, this is an Igbo coup. This is an Igbo coup. Okay, what happened? They killed the leader from this ethnic group. They killed the leader from it, and they didn't kill the one from the east. Oh, that Azikiwe was informed earlier. That was why he was out of the country, and that the premier, Chief Michael Okpara, also was informed. That was why nobody was able to find him. You know, a lot of theories like that. You know, it started mushing up like that. And remember that when the military took over, when they foiled the coup, the highest ranking officer of the Nigerian army was an Igbo man.
Yes.
Also, who foiled the coup, and now the army took over, and now they made him the head of state. You get me now? He became the leader of the country. So, and that gave verve to that ember that somebody just lit up and it sparked. It became an inferno. Okay. You know. So 6 months later, in July, I think July 29th, General Ironsi, the head of state now, was on tour of the Western region, which was being ruled as at that time by Colonel Francis Fajuyi, Adekunle Fajuyi, Colonel Francis Adekunle Fajuyi, a very heroic soldier. He was the leader, he was the governor of that region, the military governor of that region. So when Ironsi, the head of state, was in the region to do his tours and things, that was when the counter coup was planned, and it took place in Ibadan, the capital of the Western region, led by many northern young officers. You know, they killed Ironsi. Fajuyi, remember his host, the Yoruba man, Colonel Francis Adekunle Fajuyi, like I said, was a heroic soldier. He refused to give up the head of state. He refused to give up the head of state, who was his guest. So he said he can't do that, because they never wanted to kill him. They had nothing to do with him. They just wanted to kill the head of state, the Igbo man. Already that time they had something. They were planning something was brewing against the Igbo people. So Fajuyi refused, and they killed him too.
Right.
So he fell. Yeah, that heroic soldier fell alongside the head of state, Aguiyi Ironsi, general. You know, on that night of 29th of July.
That was 1967 or 66?
1966.
Okay, 1966.
1966. The first coup was January 1966. The counter coup was in July.
Okay.
And then immediately that one happened, they now installed a head of state from the north, a very young man who actually wasn't of the rank. So they had to accelerate his ranking stages immediately in order to meet up. He was actually a bachelor. He was actually a lieutenant colonel as at that time. So they had to accelerate it and make it and made him a general, a major general. His name was Colonel Gowon. He was Lieutenant Colonel Gowon then, So he became General Gowon, and he became the head of state. And what followed was the pogrom that you know about, the wiping out of the Igbo people. And like I told you earlier, we are very entrepreneurial in nature. So we are everywhere in Nigeria, just like we are everywhere in the world. You find an Igbo man anywhere you are. In the city, if you are in Kingston or anywhere you are in Jamaica, I tell you, when you look around a little while, you meet an Igbo person. We are everywhere in the world.
You know that Jamaica is predominantly Igbo and a con.
No, I don't want to go through that history. That is a daunting. That's why Ono is still an Igbo word. So many words in Patois that are Igbo words that we use every day here, So no, that history is known. It's very known. So, but what I'm saying is the ones that migrated from here. So we're everywhere. So like you have it in Nigeria, we are in every state in Nigeria, and we don't just stay. We invest. We make money. We are known for making money. Yeah. So we make money. We invest. We build houses. We develop anywhere we are. Yes. So we have investments everywhere we are. So then came the pogrom. They started killing Igbo people everywhere, right from the north down to the south. So hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Igbos were killed. This was from that July to the ending of 1966. The pogrom was everywhere. So hundreds of thousands of Igbos were killed. Their properties were confiscated or taken over by people. Their valuable properties were and belongings were plundered, were vandalized. We are taken over forcefully. Even some pregnant women were disemboweled. A lot of things. I told you the path we are treading is, leading with all that. Yes. So as that was happening, because after that coup, that first coup that the military took over, Ojuku now was appointed as the military governor of the eastern region, just as that heroic Colonel Fajuyi was appointed as the military governor of the western region. And you had a Colonel Hassan as the military governor of the northern region. Then after some time now, they now added another region, the Midwestern region, where we now had Colonel David Ejo as the military governor. This was in the 60s. So when this happened, the killing was becoming too much. So people now were rushing down to the east anywhere they could and all that. Some with broken legs, some with half limbs, some without limbs, some and all that, with nothing, millionaires coming home with nothing like that from all parts of the country. And Emeka Ojukwu was the governor, and he tried to parley with the federal government. They had peace meetings up to Aburi in Ghana, which was hosted just not quite long after the ouster of Osagia for Kwame Nkrumah, General Ankara was the head of state of Ghana then, so he hosted, and even Afrifa, General Afrifa Brigadier, then later General Afrifa also took, had a role in this too. So they hosted them in Aburi, trying to make peace. Didn't work. Selassie tried that time too. Didn't work. Through OAU, through everywhere. The Nigerian people were adamant, and the things Ojuku were demanding, they weren't ready to do it. At the point, Ojuku even convinced the Igbo people to still go back to their different destinations, where they reside and do their business, that everything is okay, that everything will be okay and things. And many of them listened to him and went back. Many didn't come back alive.
Wow.
The second wave of the pogrom took many of these lives. Many of them fell, that went back in obedience to Ojuku's injunctions and the fact that his agreement with the other side, that everything was all right. He was betrayed. and a lot of his people also died again. So now you are talking about casualties of almost 1 million now. So it became too much, and the Igbo people now started agitating. Now we have now, you know, entered into 1967.
Okay.
You see, the genesis of the crisis from 1964, you know, to all that now 1967, early 1967.
Yes.
So after the Aburi Accord failed, the Nigerian government didn't do their own part. It fell through, and before then, you had what you call the Eastern Consultative Assembly in the East. That's the enclave of Biafra. Then it wasn't Biafra yet. It was still the Eastern Nigeria. So all the chiefs, past leaders, prominent people were part of the ECA. They were like the advisory body to the government because of what's going on. So at a point now, the ECA had to give Ojuku, who was the military governor of the East, a command to succeed from Nigeria. And they gave him a timeline, a deadline, which he failed. Even the first deadline, he couldn't, because he was actually looking for peace. A lot of things have been said about him. Some people, you know, trying to, you know, twist the stories and all that. No, Ojuku wanted peace. He never wanted war, because his father was one of the richest Africans as at this time we're talking about. His father just died. His father died in 1966, and the war took place in 1967. And the father had properties all over Nigeria. The father was the richest West African on record as at this time I'm talking about. The father of General Emeka Ojuku, the leader of Biafra. You can check that out. His name was Sir Philippi or the Mego Ojuku, you know, knighted by the queen herself. Yeah.
Okay,
wow. So and that was as at that time also, the man before he died rejected a lot of things because of what was happening to the Igbos, and the British government were not doing anything. The crown wasn't helping. He renounced his lordship and all that, you know, the award, everything before he died. So Ojuku never wanted war. His father had things all over Nigeria. Who would want to lose all those things, you know? So eventually, the last mandate, where now he was told that he was going to be declared a persona non grata if he failed to succeed from Nigeria. That was May 30, 1967. The ECA had told him if he failed to do this, they were going to declare him a persona non grata, and the Igbos were going to forget him and we'll look for another leader and blah, 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 like that. Because, of course, tempers and tension and blood was cut, everything was. A lot of people already dead, a lot of wounded, a lot of billions of pounds. Then we were still using pounds. Billions of pounds lost, you know. So he had no option but to declare the birth of the Republic of Biafra on the evening of 30th May 1967, and that was how Biafra was born. Okay. And the following day, Nigeria declared war on the young country, and they brought everything in to subdue Biafra. America came in, Britain came in, a lot of countries came in just to subdue Biafra, because from after so many years after, like 40-something, 45, 50 years after the war, now some of the documents in the Whitehall in Britain, Downing Street, and some of them from White House has been declassified, and so we now have been able to read about what they were discussing, what the leadership of these two superpowers as at that time were discussing about Biafra. They said they didn't want to see a Japan in Africa. They don't need a Japan in Africa, because they knew what the Igbos could do. Igbos were building, we didn't have no weapons, because even some of the Igbo soldiers and police people that were stationed some of our soldiers and things that were stationed elsewhere that ran home during that pogrom, you know, that came with their guns and things. They all went back when they were asked to went back. They all went back with the ammunition and things. And the officers from other tribes that were in Igbo land, when they were leaving, they were allowed to go with their assigned weapons. So the armory of the new country had no weapons. It was a paltry number of weapons. Some of them outdated. So the Igbo started building their own, started manufacturing their own weapons, started doing everything. You know, building, brewing Jet A1, brewing fuel, doing everything on their own. So the American Britain said they don't want another Japan in Africa. And then Japan was just tearing up, you know, taking over everywhere, electronics, auto manufacturing and all of that, challenging the Western powers. So they said they didn't want to see that happening in Africa, so they have to crush Biafra by any means necessary. And they did that. They did that woefully. They did that very, very wickedly. They used all manner of draconian tactics to the extent that they introduced starvation, which of course caused kwashiorkor. You must have read about kwashiorkor, that the malnutrition that now wiped out a couple of millions of young Biafran babies.
Okay.
A lot happened, my brethren. But the war ended in 1970.
Give thanks for that history. And this is why Rastafari independent non-aligned media is so important, family, because we get to hear it from one of I and I brethren, you know, the full history, because I've heard the war but never so in-depth in terms of the timeline and events leading up to the war. So what other than that early mediation, what was His Majesty's role post-war in terms of mediation?
Yes, so post-war, His Majesty, you know, came in with, you know, wise mind, wise counsels to make sure, because Nigeria declared no victor, no vanquish after the war, but that was just on paper. The Biafran people were conquered people, economically, fiscally, militarily, and otherwise. You know, the landscape was bombed out. And to make it worse, immediately after the war, their economic policies made sure that the Igbos would not rise again. The federal government, through the auspices of the finance ministry, decreed and carried out this draconian law. Any Igbo man, no matter how many billions you had in the bank prior to the war, all those monies are lost, forfeited to the government. And you were only given 20 pounds. Hear me again. Even if you had 20 million pounds in the bank or any of the banks operating in Nigeria before the war, you were only given 20 pounds after the war.
Wow.
The whole Igbo. And this was done to make sure that you did not rise again. And immediately after that, the war ended in 1970. Immediately after that, in 1973, after giving the Igbos this 20 pounds, they started what they call the indigenization policy, where they now started selling off all the government-owned companies and conglomerates. Of course, they knew as at this time, no Igbo man had money to be part of it. So the indigenization policy of 1973 was also used to marginalize the Igbo person financially, economically, to make sure you never rose up again.
Wow.
And the policies they introduced about the 3 R's, rehabilitation, rebuild, and what was the other R? Maybe renovation or something, never took place. They didn't rebuild nothing. They didn't rebuild anything. They didn't revitalize nothing. They didn't rehabilitate anybody from the East, you know. It was just on paper. They just wanted to make sure that nobody rose again. So that was when Selassie also came in, trying to, because Ojuku was at that time, like you said, didn't want to, he was in exile. He was in Ivory Coast.
Yes.
You know, being hosted by Felix Ofebogni, you know, bless his soul, powerful man, you know. So he was a guest of Ofebogni in Cote d'Ivoire, and he was there for 12 years. 12 years. So that was when Selassie I tried to mediate, to make sure that to come back again to mediate personally, and then through the OAU, to make sure that the economic inequalities were discarded, that things were done normally. Yeah, it's a war amongst brothers. So it's gone. Let's get back to what we used to be, who we used to be, and how we used to live. None of that happened. They didn't take heed.
Okay.
You know, Nigeria didn't take heed. They make sure that they suppress Biafra as much as they can, suppress the Igbo people as much as they can. But then, being as entrepreneurial as they are, within the next 5 years, the story changed. Still everywhere, still doing things, and nobody could even remember that there was a time Igbos were giving 20 pounds. It's when you tell it to some people, they are like, no, that's not possible. How? Yeah, it did happen. It did happen. So it was a very difficult time. As last year I tried to level the playing field with his wise mind and things, but the leaders didn't want to play along. You know, the Nigerian leaders, because they felt they've succeeded in dismantling the Igbo hegemony, you know, the Igbo's top level arrangement in almost all sector of the economy, and they felt that they should just put them down there. And until today, no Igbo person has become the president of Nigeria.
Wow.
And mostly majority of them are not interested in Nigeria anymore. They want Biafra.
Okay, serious. These are some of the tensions on the ground on the continent. This is why we need one Africa immediately, because some of these tensions would explode if we don't move to a one Africa system where we open the borders and people can just live within their fullness. So these colonial borders, because the Igbo were a nation, the Yoruba were a nation, the Hausa were a nation, you know, we call them tribes.
Different nations brought together. Man.
Yes, they were nations. So these are some of the conflicts, and His Majesty, you know, acknowledged some of this when he said, you know, if we open up the issue of the borders, of the colonial borders, when we're trying to bring the unity, it's going to create chaos, because there were so many nations that were put together. So we would never get to the unity if we're trying to divide every nation to every nation. So we said, right now, let's work on the unity, so that, you know, because you're literally talking about thousands, if not tens of thousands of nations on the African continent, separate nations.
True.
You know what I mean?
True,
it's not one or two or 10. It's plenty. You know what I mean? Different languages, different nations, kingdoms. You know what I mean? And we call them.
I tell you that in Nigeria alone, you have 300 and something nations.
You see, so
with distinctive languages and cultures and tradition.
So this is you know, for us in the West, we have to understand Mama Africa is not the same as the West. You know what I mean? It's the cradle of humanity. So every kind of social system, every kind of people, every complexion is there in Mama. You know what I mean? It's a serious place. All right, so I want you to talk about some of the forerunners in terms of spreading Rastafari in Nigeria that we've heard about outside. People like Majek Fashet, people like Ras Kimono. When I was a young Ras, I had a CD, African Reggae. This is where I learned about Ras Kimono, Lucky Dube, all of these Alpha Blondy, all of these African giants, you know what I mean? But I know that there was some controversy in terms of Majek Machete and the mental health issue. Ras Kimono also is no longer with us. Give us the history of these iconic reggae artists who many would associate with the rise of Rastafari in Nigeria.
Yes, indeed, my king. Yes, indeed. We've had some pioneers. We had some people that really lit up the fire. A name that didn't crop up here when you mentioned these two great brethren was the name of Black Rice. Okay. Black Hole Rice, yeah, outside here. Black Rice was the founder of the Justice Itals. Justice Itals is the band where Justice Itals was the band where the great Majek Fashek came up from. You know, they were called the Justice, which had Black Rice was the drummer, Majek the frontman and the guitarist, the lead guitarist, Amos Macrojeg, who was the bassist, and was it Gesso Dread or who was the keyboardist? I can't remember now. You know, so but when it comes to this group of elders, Black Rice of Sage was actually one of the front runners. You know, he was the one that was really out there more than every other person, propagating Rastafari, trying to push it forward, and at a point started an organization called Rootron, the Rainbow Organization of Rastafari of Nigeria, Rootron. You know, that was in the 80s, early 80s. You know, and alongside founding the band Justice, was playing reggae music, serious reggae music everywhere, all places. Before Majek went solo later on in the mid 80s and dropped his first work, Send Down the Rain. Before Ras Kimono came through too with his own first album, Rumba Style. And you had a group called the Mandatos, Victor Eshent and his Empress then, who has also left us now. They were the Mandatos, and a few other bands like that. You had the Sweat Band that had Francis Goldman, you know, some few Rastaman them here and there, you know, doing it. But then it was Black Rice who took the initiative to start an organization, like I said, Rootron, which gave teeth, you know, to the whole struggle in that time, you know, and when you talk about Rastafari, you know, Majek helped in his own way musically, but then Majek at the point, you know, he had his own controversies, apart from the drug controversies and the mysticism he was involved in. He was neither here nor there. He will say Rasta today, tomorrow he will tell you I am Rastafari. You know, confusing, and he wasn't so. When you talk about progenitors or propagators out here of Rastafari liberty,
so we take Machete out of that conversation.
We don't count him. So Kimono. So Ras Kimono, Augustine Onwubuya, Ras Kimono was big. He was huge. He was doing roots rock reggae. He was doing. He recorded some Binji chants, you know. And one of the most popular, Selassie Rastafari, Jah is the Almighty I, was pretty huge in the 80s, you know. And a lot of Rastafari works he was doing in propagating Rastafari liberty and consciousness. So he helped a great deal. He played his part before he relocated to America too, just like Majek, just like the patient of the Mandatos. You know, at a point they all relocated to America. A lot of our artists there. But yeah, but Kimono later came back. You know, he later came back and he held fought straight and really tied to the Rastafari liberty till the last day. So yeah, man, he was a soldier. You know, and I celebrate the eye every time. You know, we remember the eye most times, and we give eyes. He left a daughter, Oge, who is carrying on the fight just like Nkulele Dube is carrying on the torch that her father Lucky Dube left in South Africa. So Oge Kimono is here trying to do the same, but not on that level of Rastafari consciousness in reggae music. You know, so in giving props, you know, you give props to people like that. Like I said, first and foremost is Black Rice. Give props to people like Kimono. Give props to the patient. Give props to King Brownman. Give props to a couple of the them like that way back, but not much. Some of them were actually reggae fans who were playing reggae music but wearing Rastafari. That's why I'm not bringing in a lot of names. We had plenty reggae stars way back in the days, but they were just jumping on the bandwagon of reggae music, but they weren't on the wavelength of Rastafari consciousness. So
and that's the eye is our guide to Nigerian Rastafari. So I want you to set us straight. The whole global family will watch this to get more education. So I give thanks. The eye is also a musician. Tell us about the eye music, and is the eye very popular in Nigeria? Do people know of the eye music in Nigeria? Talk to us about the eye musical works.
Yes, and I've been there, been there. Apart from my own works, you know, I've done quite some. I've done some popular works for some artists in any genre of music, but personally, you know, music, and I can say it's eclectic music. That's production and doing its best. But my own medium of expression has always been reggae music, not just reggae music, roots reggae. You know, so in popularity, man, from the late 90s, reggae started dying in Nigeria through the combined effort of corporate Nigeria and the media, who didn't like the fact that, you know, reggae music points out your sins, looks at you right in your face and points out your sins and tell you wagwa. You know, they don't like that because Nigeria is a very corrupt society from government level down. You know, so slowly but surely, reggae started going down. The patronage started going down. The promoters were calling once-on-ones for shows again. In fact, that was why some of these big artists started relocating us at that point. The Majek, Kimono, and the rest of them, you know, relocating to America and other countries. So what is big in Nigeria now is Afrobeat. Yes. You know, actually, some of our boys, our little boys now command as much as even at times $10 million per show. Filling up Madison Square Garden, New York, filling up the O2 Arena in London, filling up stadiums across the world. Even going for just to play in weddings. Like 2 of them went to India differently to perform in weddings. One was paid $3 million, one was paid about $7 million.
Does the eye know Burna Boy? You know Burna Boy?
He was one of our younger ones, but then, you know, the part they took is not, you know, we are not on the same wavelength. They are the Afrobeat people. They are once they sing about you know, materialism, sing about the woman them, and different parts of the woman anatomy and things. And I deal with that. But they are the ones raking in the money. He's one of the biggest artists in Africa right now.
In the world,
that's
in
Afrobeat.
The world. He's one of the biggest in the world. Yes. So
that's right. That's right. We have like 3 of that.
Yes. Does I know him personally? Have you ever met him?
No, I mean, I have no business with them.
Okay.
No, try as much as I can not to deal with some kind of energy.
Yeah,
some energy and I do.
Yeah, I just asked because I know you're involved with the music industry in Nigeria. If you have
big time. Personally, we know some of these guys, but I don't have, especially some of these younger ones who are. I don't want to play in their in their circles. I don't want to be. But the biggest Afrobeat hip hop artist in Nigeria, the most controversial, the one that his songs have been banned twice. The last one, Tell Your Papa, was banned some weeks ago. Idris Abdulkarim is my best friend. I am his best friend, so to say. You know,
what's his name? Say his name again. Say his name again.
Idris Abdulkarim.
He's the
Idris
biggest.
Abdulkarim.
You say he's the biggest Afrobeat.
The most controversial and the pioneer, one of the pioneers.
Okay.
So he's the one we usually call the hip hop star. You know, his group, the Remedies, were actually the first major, the first commercially successful, and the first most popular Afrobeat hip hop group in the country from about 1997 till they disbanded in about 2002, and they now went solo and did some of the biggest joints in fact, his joint of 2004, Jaga Jaga, Nigeria Jaga Jaga, is still it's like our second national anthem. You know, so he's that big, and he's my best friend.
Okay.
So it's not so I know these people, but I fly with the same kind of birds that, you know, fly my route, that have the same kind of feathers I have.
Yes.
He's an activist, a human rights defender. Though his own hip hop and Afrobeat is all about fighting for the people. He's the voice of the voiceless. So he is my type. That's why we can relate. These other ones who are doing nyash, breast, this, that business, and Rasta.
Yeah. Serious thing. We're almost at 2 hours, but I wanna get give us the history of the Rastafari organization that you are now the chair. What is the history of that organization, and how did they become a part of the RCC, the Rastafari Continental Council? Give us that history of the organizing and centralizing of Rastafari as an organ in Nigeria. And then we want to talk about the governor the other day that made some loose argument, educate the people, and then we'll see. This is just part 1. You see, there's so much to reason about. The time just fly, but
so much.
Yes. But give us the history of the Rastafari organization in Nigeria, and then give us how the item became a part of the RCC.
Give thanks, my Lord. Yes, sir. You know, we have for many years we've been running an organization called the Rasta Ministry International, RMI. Rasta Ministry International was just like I told you, and I deal much with mansions, and thankfully in Nigeria, no mansions in Nigeria. You know, just a few man there could be, you know, member of 12 tribes. Some man could shanty, 1 or 2 man there. The most of I is just Rastafari and involved in our Rastafari thing. So the Rasta Ministry International was a body I was using to propagate Rastafari, you know, consciousness and liberty, and just also propagate conscious reggae vibes and make sure it does not die. So we ran that for many years, and we were making a lot of progress because that was what we used to evangelize and to get more and more adherents, make some man them start trotting the path of Rastafari, It was the Rasta Ministry International for many, many years. So along the line, sometime in 2017, 2017, there was this coming together of the IDEM, in Shashamani, Ethiopia. I wasn't there, I didn't come. But there, I understand Sister Ajaina, bless her soul, she just left us a few years back. Now muted the idea of All African Rastafari Gathering, AARG, and that's, from the man them, Ahuma Bosco, Tau, and some man them, Jabulani them, started thinking about having a centralized body of Rastafari in Africa and things, the importance of that, and the fact that I needs to have a continental Rastafari superstructure, that will oversee the affairs, of INI community across the continent. So, and I was called. They called I on the phone.
No problem. Start over from the Rastafari Ministry International, the history.
All right, King. So we, with the Rasta Ministry International, I was propagating, Rastafari consciousness, trying to centralize and organize Rastafari liberty in Nigeria, making once and once them throw the path, and many a man them, saw their love and light and things and follow the path. So at this time, so we did that for many years until sometime in 2017 when there was this gathering in Shashamani, Ethiopia, where Sister Ajaina Christian, may God rest her soul, who just left us a few years ago, meted the idea of the All African.
That's my good sister, Mama Ajaina, you know what I mean? Love.
True. Yeah, true. Last time I spent time was in Ghana. Beautiful sister, lovely sister. Yes. So, so she made the idea of the All African Rastafari Gathering, AARG, where Rastafari come together, link up together, trade together, make things and sell things for Rastafari and all that, to grow our community and empower and ourselves, in line with also what Dr. Desta Mego was talking about, the yellow page and all that, and I trading amongst ourselves and empowering ourselves and all that. Yes. So it was that time.
Yes, big up Dr. Desta, my next good sister as well, Mama Desta.
Powerful.
Powerhouse.
True. True. Plenty of them. We have plenty of them, my lord. So that was the time that man them like Tau them and Ahuma Bosco and enough man them, Ras Jabulani, enough for them, started tinkering about it. Why I centralize and organize Rastafari in the continent, have a continental Rastafari superstructure that can oversee INI communities, activities and things across the continent, have our own AU. Our own African Union in form of a Rastafari continental body, which was long overdue anyways. So the idea was meted while the man then were in Shashamani. So I was called over the phone, because they know what I been doing in Nigeria. They know I been championing the cause in Nigeria and things. So once the idea of a continental thing was coming through, so they put the cross across. They put the call across, and I first was Ahuma Bosco called Daddy Bosco. So I linked up with the rest of the family. And I was CC, and ever since then we've been moving stronger and stronger. And a few years later, we held a continental election because what we had before was an interim executive. So we now had a proper election where I was elected as the spokesperson of the organization in Africa. And I still here in Rastafari Vineyard, serving Jah. When I works happily and joyfully.
And I want the eye to know that the eye always have this platform. You know, as you can see when you look through our lion log, we have races from all over the world. So we're creating this as a centralization for this time. We are in that repatriation time. A lot of ones getting ready to come home now. So we want to make sure we have our own media so that, as you know, we can hear straight, because the voice of Rastafari on the continent have to be a part of this reasoning. It can't just be ones from the West saying we're going home to Africa and we're not reasoning with the ones who are already there, born and bred. You know what I mean? We have to, as Honorable Priest Toot say, we have to create that gumminess. You know what I mean? So we bring together I family and break those barriers. But speaking of that, I wanna seal up with the story that most people was alarming to many. We saw a governor in Nigeria calling for, you know, basically it brought back memories of Coral Garden. He was calling for the arrest and persecution of everybody with locks. And I saw a press release come out from the Rastafari community in Nigeria. And I said that was what made me say I have to reach out to my Nigerian family and get what is happening in Nigeria. We get more context from the eye, but give us that story. What happened? Where are we now? What is the way forward?
Yes, King, blessed love. You know, like I said before, we have this insecurity problem in Nigeria, which is occasioned by Islamic militias, you know, from the north. So the north is a very volatile area. You know, a lot of the places are usually ransacked on weekly basis. Plenty people killed, farmlands destroyed, ancestral homes taken over by some Fulani men or irredentists, them coming from everywhere. But it's all based on religious jihadist agenda, you know. So the states in question,
funded by the colonial powers, that came out recently, that these were funded by USAID and all of these foreign powers. But
indeed,
continue. Yes, I.
Indeed. So it then happened that it became very, at the point, you know, even some of the people that were supporting it based on religion now started seeing the deadly part of it all, the fact that they were losing out, you know, because it was majorly centered in the north and they were destroying their own places, you know, because these were people who originally came from that side of the country and whose religion is also what is predominantly practiced there. So it was after some time that they started trying to export it across the other regions, you know, to make it a national thing. So the state in question is Niger State. And Niger State is in the northern part of Nigeria, where this crisis is, you know, the Muslim-dominated area. So the Governor Bago, is a new governor, a young man, you know, who we thought was going to come make a difference, you know, in the state, because we are, most of the problems we have in Nigeria, like where you hear that we have a couple of millions of out of school children, you know, children that are of school age, who are out of school, who are not going to school. When you hear that we have a couple of millions of them in Nigeria, you are talking about the northern part of the country, not my side, not the west, you know. And this is caused also, once again, by applying religion in a way that is confusing, you know, because they have a system where they call Al-Majari system in the north, where kids of school age are given to, by their parents, given to a malam. A malam is an Islamic teacher. You understand? He's an Islamic teacher. He teaches you the Quran and how to recite the Quran and all that. So but what most of these malams do, the malams we know, what they do is that they buy bowls for these kids, and from in the morning they just send them out begging alms from morning till night.
Okay.
So whatever money they make out there, they bring back to the malam, to their teacher, who will use that as part of his upkeep and then taking care of the kids. We don't see anybody taking care of them because they roof the street from morning till night, begging everything. And if you happen to be eating in a restaurant, a roadside restaurant, and when you look the other way and look back again, they've taken your food and pour it into their bowl, usually dirty bowl. You're not going to take it back, you know. So that is very predominant in the north, and that's why you have millions of out-of-school children. Okay. You know, so and these children now, this is the breeding ground. You know, I like giving steps by step, analysis for you to understand. So these out-of-school children, that population, that massive population of them, because we are talking about millions. This is like a breeding ground for future jihadists, for future marauders, for future bandits, and for future terrorists. You know, so from this crop of people who, of course, are now uneducated, they will grow up not having any skills, not having education, not having any plans for their lives. Of course, the parents don't do nothing. They just give birth to them, and when they are of age a little bit, they push them to the mala. And they will end up growing like that without any formal skill acquisition or knowledge of any type or educational background to help navigate their way forward in life. So most of them now end up being used, either political thugs or as bandits, as terrorists, as whatever, marauders everywhere, and all that. So that's why in the north you have a lot of these things going on. So the man in question, the governor of Niger State, what he was trying to say, because his state is being ravaged by banditry and terrorist attacks. But instead of him choosing his words correctly and doing things he's supposed to do, and also from this crop of people now, even from the northern part that I told you can't find a Rastaman from the Hausa or the Fulani ethnic nationalities, you have some of them now carrying locks out of fashion. Yes, indeed. We even see some pictures of bandits in the bushes with locks, small locks. So locks have become for them a fashion statement. So, and some cultists, because we have them, they are very prevalent in our society too, in the schools and on the streets. It's a dog-eat-dog situation in most of these places.
Yes.
So some of these cultists, but it's not all bad news in Nigeria. You know, we groove a lot. We have a whole lot of things going on beautifully well too, on a different scale. But then some of these cultists also spot locks. Some of the Yahoo boys I tell you about, these internet fraudsters. You know, Nigeria is very proficient in that too. We have a lot of boys making a lot of money there, and they call it reparation.
I get the phone calls.
You get the calls.
Yes, sir. And I tell them about lightning and thunder and all kind of things, and they hang up on her, you know.
Even some of us are not spared. Some of us are not spared here in Nigeria too, because some of them will reach you from abroad too.
Yes.
On the same scale, you know. So, and some of these guys are having locks. So that was why the man, instead of chewing his words pretty well, or for his handlers to, to write, something tangible for him, to, something understandable, the guy went on national TV and was like, you catch anybody with dreadlocks, cut the locks, beat him up, do this, lock him up, blah, 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 which was almost the same thing that the former police PRO I talked about did like 6 or 7 years ago, that we called him out. Yeah, we called that one out too strongly. He had to make a rebuttal. So this guy goofed big time. So immediately he did that. We didn't wait. We issued that statement and we were doing a whole lot of things until he recanted. And then, but he was now trying to find a way out. And now, instead of saying the truth, he was now building another pack of lies. That I didn't say that. That I am being misquoted. What I said is being misconstrued. Forgetting that was recorded, live, camera, lights, action, and he spoke. And the internet never forgets. So we still send the video to him. He said, no, they doctored the video. That was what I said. So all that. So yes, we understand where he's coming from. But our question is that don't profile any man you see with dreadlocks or any woman with dreadlocks, profiling them and attaching them to Rastafari. You have to understand Rastafari. And that's why we always, we do at times we drop some messages, we drop leaflets, we drop enough statements trying to create that balance in the minds of the people, because our population is quite large and the number of young people sporting dreadlocks now so massive.
Yes.
So, but then it's always very easy to know the difference, because all of them are trying to look good, carving their laws, carving breads, all those things that Rasta now do, wearing all manner of tattoos and all that and stuff. So we always try to draw the parallel to make the society and the law enforcement officers understand the differences.
Yes.
So some of them we walk in hand in hand. If there's anybody at times when they arrest on locks, I get on calls, and when I know and I deal. Yeah? But if it's Rasta, we show up, to know where we're going and then do the right thing. So the man has recanted, but our point is that yes, go home, but sin no more. We don't want to hear that kind of thing again.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, man.
I have two more questions. First question is, how does Nigeria deal with the Sakrament, the ganja? How is that dealt with in Nigeria? Is it very dangerous, or do the Rastas get to go through with their Sakrament? What was that? And I want to ask the eye about Ibrahim Traore and the Sahel, because I have to get that from the eye as well. But first, tell us about the Sakrament.
Yeah, man, talking about the Sakrament, the holy herb, yes, and I burn it Rasta, and I burn it no matter what Babylon want to, them bomb, but they want to just bonfire. I have a song called Mariana that's talking about marijuana, but I have to, feminize it for the government so I could release it. It's called Mariana, but then when you start listening, I'm not talking about any woman, I'm talking about marijuana and things. So yeah, man, we burn the weed Rasta, we do with sacraments like letter today in the Naya Binji section, and I go and burn enough weed Rasta, but it's not legalized.
Yes.
Aina is hoarded. Aina is being chased around because of ganja. Aina is being victimized because of ganja, but that won't stop Aina from burning up the weed. We have we have our own DEA, which is called NDLA here, Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency. And the new guy, a brigadier general who was a former military administrator of my state, Lagos State here, he was good when he was the military governor here, but then him as the drug star, he is leaving the substance and chasing shadows. Instead of him going after drugs, he's coming after the Sakrament. He's coming after the healing of the nations. And we've tried to educate them over and over about this. In the last Rastafari conference we had, ganja was a special topic. You know, some men then delivered papers on ganja, and some of the breakout sections dealt with that and all that. And we're trying to call for the legalization down here, but they're not listening. You know, and down here in Nigeria, we have some of the best herbs. You know, we have some part of the country where they grow some of the best herbs. They keep burning the farms, and the farms keep sprouting up everywhere. You see, so yes, they are trying to kill the healing of the nation, but the nation must be healed. So that healing is needed. So and I keep burning it, and we'll go and burn it up and up. We'll go and keep blazing fire until they will come around. But yes, it's not legalized, not like they do in South Africa where they call it daga. No, it's not yet legalized in Nigeria, and not like even the Ghanaian government is listening to the people, you know, trying to do something about it. In Nigeria, nothing like that. They don't even when a governor of a state, the guy just left us about a year ago, or no, not up to a year now. You know, he was the governor of Ondo State, who in his state there's a place called Owo. In his place in the state, and Owo was reputed to have one of the best ganja, you know, around, because they grow ganja, you know, wicked, unlike some place too in Delta State. So the governor was one man that really talked about ganja and even took some people to Thailand, trying to see how they can expand it. But of course, he was leading a state government, and all these laws are domiciled with the federal government because we run a federal system. So there was nothing he could do, you know. So right now, ganja is still seen as a drug, as a hard drug in Nigeria, and they are burning up the farms almost every other time, seizing up valuable ganja herbs being exported or being transferred or transported to where, you know, and I should burn them up, and they seize them and burn them up. And whenever I see such things on the television, television, burning up the ganja, and I start be like, why you burn it up? Why not call it and I give it to the Rastafari community, but can I help you burn it? Lord God. So it's a situation and I still grappling with.
The fight is still ahead of us.
Yes, indeed.
All right, quickly. What is the sound
on Ibrahim Traore?
Yes. What is the sound and the Sahel states? What is the sound with the Rastafari community in Nigeria on our captain?
Awesome, big team. In fact, the chairperson of the Burkina Faso Rastafari community, I just spoke with him some days ago, still on Ibrahim Traore. Actually just did a song for the man too, you know, coming out soon. And he is the African president. He's the kind of person we're all looking for, we're all angling for, that Africa needs. That's the new Sankara. The Sankara spirit is in that young man. You know, that is Sankara out there, my brethren. You see? So he makes us happy a whole lot. And one other thing, like I told you, Nigeria, big brother, giant of Africa, blah, 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 all is just hogwash. Because our president, our current president right now is also the chairman of the ECOWAS Commission. And you know, these Sahel countries are supposed to be in ECOWAS. They're all members of ECOWAS. That's the Economic Community of West African States. That's West Africa. So yeah, but Ibrahim Traore led the other three young countries now being run by these powerful young Africans that we all are hailing now, like the one in Guinea, in Niger and all that. Yes. all that, Chad,
Yeah,
you know,
Mali,
we are
Mali,
Mali,
yeah, Burkina Faso,
yeah, man.
yeah.
Yeah, man. You know, he led them and they formed the Association of Sahel States.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
so they broke out from ECOWAS under the nose of my president, who is the chairman of ECOWAS. And when that one questioned, what one of the words Ibrahim told him was, "We know you didn't even win the election in Nigeria, so you grabbed the leadership, so you don't even have the right to talk to us." And that was lovely. So, you know, because we know the guy didn't win the election,
Yes,
they bought it over.
Okay, okay.
You know, so some days ago, another comrade, one of our comrades, you know, who was planning a rally like what I saw some Rasta them do, the Rastafari Mansions organization did in Jamaica some days ago.
Yes, yes.
One brethren, yes, in Delta was organizing a solidarity rally for Ibrahim Traore. And 2 days to a day to the rally, they picked him up. I'm not sure they've released him till now because we did a press thing on him some days ago too. So I'm not sure he's out yet. You know,
that was a Rastafari brethren that was arrested?
No. A Marxist activist.
Okay.
He's a Marxist, but he's an activist. He's a comrade in that aspect.
Yes.
But he's a Marxist. It's called color Marxist. So, you know, so he was picked up just for that because our president, of course, is an enemy of Ibrahim Sahel, of Ibrahim Traore. Ibrahim Traore, because he sees him as one who wants to pull the rug off his feet.
Okay.
You know, who during his leadership of the ECOWAS Commission now have a splinter group. He's leading a splinter group of the Association of Sahel States.
Yes, yes.
There are about 4 of them now, which is actually messing up ECOWAS. Yes. You know, so my president is one of his biggest enemies.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, but Ibrahim Traore, is our new Sankara. In fact, if I have my way to be the president of the United States of Africa now, the kind of mindset he has.
Yeah. Is there a large Rastafari community in Burkina Faso? How large?
No, not too large. Not too large. No, not too large. But they are growing. We're also helping to, you know, to pick them up through RCC. They are growing slowly but surely. You know.
Give thanks.
You know, also out there. Sorry, my lord. Don't forget what religion is doing to Africa. Religion is one of the biggest bane of Rastafari spreading in Africa, and that is Islam. You know, in Burkina Faso, you also have a large percentage of Muslims, which is also an issue. Yeah.
I would love to get a link for that brethren. Does he speak English?
Yes, he does. In fact, he's one of the few people. He's a teacher. He teaches in English in one of their schools. So yeah, his English is very passable. Very passable.
Yeah, I would love to get him on this platform so that the ones can hear what's happening on the ground in Burkina Faso. So I'll get that link from the.
I'll link you up. I'll link you up, my lord.
So you know, we've gone over 2 hours. We don't talk about Dan Gote. We don't talk about whole heap of topics, but this is part 1. This is part 1, my brother. Because Nigeria is so massive. We have so much to talk about with Nigeria. Chevron, all kind of history that we can go into. Give us some final words and then let the people know how they can spend money with the eye. We want the Lion Pride to put some money in this brother's pocket. So let the people know how they can support the eye works financially, and just give us a final sound on this historic reasoning with the Lion Voice Network.
Yeah, man. Give thanks, King. Give thanks for the opportunity once again. It's an absolute pleasure and honor for I to be here representing the Nigerian Rastafari community, and making the eye them know through the Lion Network say we there here so. And I is doing the works, and I is in the vineyard, and I know fret, and I know run nowhere, and I is here, and Rastafari Liberty has come to stay, and our community is growing, expanding exponentially. Not yet the way we want it, but we are getting there. We even have we have an orchestra that's dropping vibes. You know, the Italian music. We've done quite a couple of things. It's called RCC Nigerian Italian. So you know, in the yard later today we'll be having our Nayabinji section. I personally honorable Mike Pam, and I, like I said, and I is a reggae artist apart from the other things, and I do. And I just dropped a new song some days ago, Street University, and I'll be dropping some new vibes because my new album coming out with 20 songs, 20 solid reggae vibes, you know, and as a reggae, you know, Nayabinji chants, you know, Wishrock, some vibes, you know, some poetic dubs, you know. The new album will be out very soon. We're working on some of the last parts of the songs. And I on Facebook is Mike Pam, MYKE space PAM. On TikTok is Mike, it's Mike MYKE dot Pam PAM. On Instagram is Pambalistic, because I'm the Pambalistic monk. My poetic thoughts, random thoughts series, because I write, like I told you, and when the album comes out, a book of poetry also will be released on the same day too. It's called the Pambalistic Musings, you know, and I do enough things, and yes, indeed, by Jah grace, you know, any support, any Jah soldier gets in helping to propagate, you know, Jah works is always a very, very welcomed development, and it goes a long way in helping I stand firm and stand fast, you know. And like I said, I normally from a little privileged background, but because of I decision to toe the line that's not the family line, and I deal with them things, you know. So that Anna is the happiest person, you know, doing Jah works. I don't know, Mike Pam can be reached online anytime, any day. I'm on WhatsApp with the number you have everywhere. Yes, my lord. Indeed.
So link him on his social media, find out how you can spend money with the brethren and support the album, buy the works. Let us show that support and that love. Nigeria strategically is very important for the Rastafari family on the continent as the most populous, the most influential country, arguably, on the continent with the rise of Afrobeats now. So let us support our Rastafari family in Nigeria as a global Rastafari collective. As I told the eye is welcome here anytime. Just let us know when you have works to release and things. We can host the eye and any other brethren and sisters in Nigeria that the eye recommend. We would also love to have them on the platform as well, so that we can get the world more familiar with our Nigerian family, and so they also can get more attention to the works that they are doing, you know what I mean? And hopefully I'll be able to visit the eye on the ground with the camera, and we can film, even more.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome, my lord. We have hosted enough Rastafari them in Nigeria. The last one was a delegation from Barbados that was with us. They were here for 2 weeks and 2 days from Barbados, and we took them all around, and some of them are actually planning to relocate. So we've hosted quite a number of Rastafari people from across the world. That's RCC, and we're always ready to host. You know, yeah, man. And RCC Africa is actually planning for Nigeria to host the next Rastafari conference, African Rastafari conference, and all African Rastafari gathering. Probably later this year.
That might be when I forward in, during that time. When is that? That's next year or this year?
Yeah, when we are through with the dating, probably ending of this year, later this year. So I'll keep the eye informed.
Yeah, man, please keep eye posted, because I definitely want to come through with the camera on the ground and reason with the ones and show the world what it's like on the ground in Nigeria. So give thanks for the eye. Give thanks for the entire Rastafari family. Again, this is part 1. We have so much more that we didn't touch on, but we'll save that for part 2. The brethren will be a regular face that the eye them see, so get used to it. We are here. Rastafari Independent Non-Aligned Media is here to stay. We're not going anywhere. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice. Haile Selassie.
Lion Voice.
Well, great is the Almighty, and greatly to be praised in the city of Haile Selassie I, the mountain of His holiness.
Yeah, from Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, you know, the whole entire continent.
Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, from Accra to Addis Ababa.
Yes, it's beautiful continent, better control, mama.
Very beautiful.
From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile. From
I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I see Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. We gonna use solar energy, use sanitation to build the ecology. We utilizing green technology. We hailing Haile Selassie first without apology. And then we build the youth them economy. We dismantle Babylon monopoly. We teach the youth them how to live properly. Tell them make sure them got the title for them property.
yes, this beautiful continent, better control, mama. Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile.
I love you, mama, your heart never harden. I wanna turn all your slums into garden. I wanna stop all of your youths from starving. I wanna stop all of your tribes from warring. So much to say, so many feelings. We both been hurt, we both need healing. Since the Legalization you've been appealing. You stand up against them backdoor dealing. I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I see Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. Then I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long in America. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw.
So be still, all enemies of Jah. Know that He's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the Lion Conqueror. And it was said of Ethiopia, the highest himself shall establish her. His Majesty was born there.
And I know that I love you so. There's no place that I'd rather go. Tired of walking through slush and snow. Repatriation, that's a must I know.